Hi, welcome. Enjoy the content, subscribe, and turn on notifications.
Honey, can you grab the car keys for me? I parked on the street because the trash can was blocking the driveway. See if you can put it back where it goes and pull the car in? Ashley said this while opening the front door with one hand and balancing her purse on her shoulder. She seemed rushed, like she wanted to get rid of the day's routine as soon as possible. Noah, who was in the kitchen, said sure and walked over to the living room. Her purse was tossed on the couch. He picked it up casually, unzipped the side pocket, and started looking for the keys. But in between the perfume bottle and the wallet, his fingers came across a neatly folded piece of paper. It was a receipt. Printed at the top, in bold letters, was the name Hillside Bar and Grill. A pricey restaurant on the other side of town. He felt time slow down. The date on the receipt was from the night before. The time matched what she'd claimed was a meeting at the office. Noah read each line, like he was searching for a hidden clue. 2 main courses. 1 bottle of wine. It didn't add up. Ashley always said she avoided wine during the week because she was focused, too busy for extras. And now this, a full dinner for 2, at a place they'd never gone to together. The paper shook slightly in his fingers, not because of any breeze, but because of what it implied. He folded it again, exactly as it had been, and slipped it back where he found it. He grabbed the car keys and went outside, where the trash can was still blocking the sidewalk right in front of the garage. Noah dragged it back to its usual spot and parked her car with ease. It was something he did almost on autopilot, but that night, every move seemed loaded with meaning. When he walked back in, Ashley had already gone upstairs to the bathroom. The sound of the shower echoed through the house. He headed to the kitchen, opened the fridge, stared at everything inside for a few seconds without grabbing anything, and closed it again. It all looked normal, but something inside him had started to spark. A feeling he couldn't name yet, but definitely felt. Ashley came downstairs with her hair still wet, wearing the same old sweats, and asked if he wanted to watch an episode of the show they usually followed. Noah said, sure, but she was already sitting on the couch, laughing at something on her phone. He sat beside her and tried bringing up a work issue he was having with a client. She just answered with, "That's crazy," and, "You'll figure it out." Everything felt so routine. The night went on, but his head stayed stuck on that receipt. He tried to smile, tried to act normal, but every word she spoke seemed rehearsed. Every laugh sounded far away. When she said she was tired and headed upstairs to sleep, Noah lingered in the living room a bit longer. He sat in silence. Suddenly, the ticking of the wall clock sounded louder, and the house felt emptier. When he finally went up, she was already in bed, scrolling through her phone in the dark. He lay facing the other way. He stared at the wall, but what he really saw were scrambled memories and the uncomfortable sense that the small folded paper might be hinting at a story he wasn't sure he wanted to uncover. In the days that followed, Noah started paying attention differently. He wasn't just listening to Ashley's words for their meaning, but for her tone, her hesitation, how quickly she tried to end a conversation. Little phrases became red flags. Things that would have seemed normal before now felt staged. She'd say she was worn out from work, but the energy she had in the mornings, new outfits, heavier makeup, a sweet perfume he'd never smelled, didn't match that at all. He pretended not to notice, but he stored each detail like a puzzle piece with no clear picture yet. He began watching her routine with new eyes. She started spending twice as long in front of the mirror on Wednesday mornings. Late office hours got more frequent. She'd respond to texts with her face lit by the phone screen, smiling to herself, always flipping the phone face down when he approached. She said she needed more space, that she was stressed, and that she'd rather skip long talks during the week. She suggested they each do their own thing for a while to clear their heads. Her reasoning sounded too polished, like she'd practiced it. One morning, she rushed out saying she had a meeting off-site. As soon as the gate closed, Noah hurried to the bedroom, opened her drawer, and found the planner she always used religiously. On that day's page, there was just a single red slash. Nothing else. That was odd, she never left a busy day blank. He put it back exactly as he found it and stood there quietly for a moment, surrounded by the scent of her new perfume. That same afternoon, she came home in high spirits, brought takeout, and started telling a funny story about a coworker, calling them he before quickly correcting herself to she. He pretended not to notice. He pretended a lot of things that week, to the point he felt like a stranger in his own house. Weekends changed too. Ashley began refusing simple plans, like going grocery shopping together, watching a movie on the couch, or visiting Noah's parents. She'd say she needed more sleep or had reports to finish. She spent long hours in her room with the door partly open, headphones on, smiling at her laptop. She claimed she was addicted to a new show, but when he asked the name, she stumbled over her words. Meanwhile, Noah barely slept. He'd lie awake for hours, listening to every noise, the creaks in the house, each of her footsteps, every click of her phone. He didn't trust his own peace anymore. A kind of anxiety spread through his body, filling his chest whenever she gave him a quick hug, as if it were just a formality. The worst part was the lack of confrontation. It seemed like she didn't care about keeping their bond alive, just going through the motions with the coldness of someone whose mind was already somewhere else, even if she was still physically there. One day, while she was in the shower, Noah quietly opened her purse and found a bright lipstick he'd never seen her wear at home, along with a pair of long earrings that didn't match her usual style. He sat on the couch for a few seconds, holding them, trying to picture the woman she became when she stepped out of their home. Then he put everything back, stood up, looked out the window, and felt like something was already lost. Something he might not be able to reclaim, even if he wanted to. When Ashley came out of the bathroom, smiling like nothing was wrong, he smiled back, a hollow, almost automatic smile, but one that concealed a silent decision: keep observing, stop asking questions, for now. That night was the breaking point. Noah lay staring at the ceiling until his eyes burned. His mind spun with so many possibilities that for a moment, he wondered if the ground was still underneath him. Those little lies, the empty smiles, the new perfume, laughter that no longer included him, new things that felt like they belonged to another life, one he didn't know. It was as if Ashley was disappearing in front of him, replaced by someone else entirely. The next morning, while she brushed her teeth, he just watched. The way she avoided his gaze in the mirror, the speed of her movements, like spending time with him, weighed her down. She left the house in a hurry, talking about traffic, monthly goals, reports no one else would handle. But to Noah, it all sounded like excuses. That day, his decision was final. He needed answers, real answers, not from her, not the scripted version. That same afternoon, he called his cousin Patrick. They'd grown up together, and despite their different lives, they stayed in touch. Patrick had experience in private security and investigations, having worked with large companies and small personal cases. Noah told him everything directly, describing her behavior, the objects, the forgotten receipt. Patrick listened in silence. All Noah heard was his cousin's heavy breathing on the other end. Finally, he said, "Give me a week." For the next 7 days, Noah lived like a ghost in his own home. He talked with Ashley as usual, answered her comments, helped with chores, washed dishes after dinner, took out the trash. She acted normal, or at least tried to. But her phone habits, how she kept the screen hidden, the subtle tension in her face when he showed up unannounced, everything pointed to a growing gap between them. He hardly slept. When he did, he dreamed of strange voices, blurred scenes, locked doors. He woke up sweaty, throat dry, feeling like he was being pushed out of his own life. Yet there was still a part of him that clung to hope, as dumb as it might seem, hoping it was all just a big misunderstanding. On Friday night, Ashley said she was going out with people from work to celebrate a manager's birthday. Noah just nodded. She wore a black dress he'd never seen, high heels, and a delicate necklace he didn't even know she owned. She looked stunning, but that beauty seemed meant for someone else's eyes now. She said goodbye with a quick kiss and was gone. He stood there, listening to the sound of her car fading until the silence returned. On Saturday morning, she woke up early, changed into workout clothes, and left for the gym as she'd been doing recently. She kissed Noah's cheek quickly, put in her earbuds, grabbed her water bottle, and walked out in her new white sneakers. Right after she left, Patrick texted, "Mind if I swing by?" 15 minutes later, he parked in front of the house. Noah opened the gate, palms sweaty. Patrick got out holding a plain envelope, looking serious. He handed it over silently. Noah thanked him, went into the living room, and felt his heart pounding like a drum. He sat down, carefully opened the envelope, and pulled out the photos. The first showed Ashley entering a hotel in the same black dress from the night before, next to a tall, dark-haired man in nice clothes. They were both laughing. In the next picture, she was holding his hand. In another, they were hugging on the sidewalk, waiting to go in. In the last, they were walking toward the reception desk, backs to the camera. Noah felt his stomach drop. The floor felt far away. His eyes burned, but he didn't blink. He simply stared at the pictures that turned suspicion into fact. The affair was no longer a possibility, it was proven, right in front of him. He got up, went to the bedroom, grabbed a small suitcase, and started to pack. He gathered documents, a toothbrush, a phone charger, and a sweater Ashley had bought him years ago, the one he liked best, ironically. He walked downstairs, passed through the kitchen, and stopped in the living room. He took the photos, laid them out on the coffee table, straight and visible. No letter. No explanation. He didn't look for a fight or demand answers. His departure was silent, but final. He stepped through the gate and, crossing the street with his suitcase in hand, felt for the first time in a while that he was in control. He didn't know where he'd go, but he knew he wouldn't stay in a place without respect. Hours later, Ashley came home. She found the house quiet. She called Noah's name a couple of times. Realizing he wasn't there, she spotted the open envelope and photos on the table. She stopped in front of them, her expression rigid. She just sat down on the couch, hands trembling, face pale. 15 years passed. Time swept over Noah like a wave that, instead of knocking him down, taught him to float. He rebuilt his life at the pace his heart could handle. He met Megan by chance in a small downtown bookstore, when they both reached for the same travel book. She was the first to smile. He hesitated. Then they started talking. Chance became habit, and habit turned into a home, a routine, a family. Then came their son, now a teenager with his mother's sense of humor and Noah's eyes. That Monday morning, Noah and Megan walked through the main entrance of their son's school, talking about his report card and joking about something he'd said at breakfast. They were carrying a folder of paperwork for the parent-teacher meeting. Neither expected anything unusual, just another chat with the teachers. When the receptionist led them to the designated room, Noah kept talking, but as soon as he stepped inside, his body reacted before his brain fully processed what he saw. She was there. Ashley. He didn't say her name out loud, but it hit him hard inside. She stood near the central table, posture as straight as always, but her face held lines that hadn't been there before. Her cheeks were paler, her eyes dull, her expression heavy, even though she tried for a polite smile. Her hair was pulled back in a simple style, like she'd traded vanity for the rushed demands of her life, or maybe just tiredness. Noah froze for a second. Megan noticed. One glance was enough to see that this wasn't just any meeting. Ashley didn't speak at first, she simply gestured for them to sit. The room was quiet. The papers on the table were neatly organized, as if she was trying to stay in control of whatever was churning inside. They started discussing his son's school performance, and Ashley used a professional, methodical tone, almost like a script. She praised his reading and writing skills, how he helped classmates, how responsible he was. Everything was laid out perfectly. But whenever her eyes lifted from the paper or the screen, they went straight to Noah. And when their gazes met, there was a brief pause, something you can't quite define. Maybe a memory, maybe a regret, maybe just the echo of everything left undone. Megan noticed. She didn't show any discomfort, just stayed quiet. She gave that moment the space it needed, like someone who understands that certain old wounds aren't a threat, they're just scars. Ashley wrapped up the meeting by thanking them for being active in their son's education, saying it made a big difference. Her voice trembled for a split second on that final line, as if part of her remembered she'd never been able to say that about herself. After the breakup, Ashley went through a long period of doubt. She kept at her job for a while, but gradually lost the spark that once set her apart. Targets stopped matching, promotions felt pointless, and any new relationships fizzled out within months. She carried a silent regret, the kind that's heavy without making a sound. With no children and no steady partner, she felt adrift from her own future. That was when she decided to change. She left the corporate world and enrolled in a teacher training program. She'd always had a way with kids and teens, and that gave her a sense of purpose. Teaching became her path back to something more human, more grounded, maybe even the part of herself she'd left behind. The classroom became her safe space. Though her smile never glowed the way it once had, the small victories with her students gave her a reason to keep going. Years passed, and she settled into this new life, but some memories never disappeared, they simply got quieter. That's why, when she saw Noah sitting there with another woman and a son who shared his last name, the ground she'd taken so long to rebuild seemed to tremble under her feet. But being there in that room said it all. The look on her face, the cautious way she talked, how she avoided his name, like just saying it could knock down everything she'd built. When Megan thanked her for the meeting, Ashley managed a small nod. Noah just gave a flat, thank you, free of bitterness but loaded with history. On their way out, Noah held the door for Megan and glanced back. Ashley had already sat down, tidying her papers, eyes locked on the table. She didn't look up. She didn't watch them leave. She just kept going, like someone who'd learned the hard way how to live with absence. Walking across the parking lot, Megan stayed silent by Noah's side. Noah's gaze was on the pavement, weighed down by something that wasn't exactly pain, but wasn't relief either. It's that feeling you get when your past and present suddenly collide. He flashed back to that conference room, to meeting Ashley's eyes for that brief instant, the way she seemed scared to even say his name, like it would stir something that had been dormant too long. Megan got in the car first, still not saying anything. Her quiet was the most graceful way to let him know she understood it all without making him spell it out. That was the partner he'd chosen, someone who knew when to talk and also when silence mattered. After he got in and fastened his seatbelt, she simply touched his hand gently and smiled. That was enough. That said everything. For the rest of the day, Noah couldn't shake the image of Ashley in that chair, papers arranged neatly in front of her, eyes avoiding his. Even over dinner at home, he kept thinking about how tired she looked, how hard she was trying to stay professional with the weight of their past still between them. He'd moved on, but a part of him never had a clear view of that ending, until now. Finally, after so many years, it felt like real closure. He remembered the nights he left home with a suitcase, not knowing where to go. The moment he saw those pictures, the sensation of losing himself. It was like all that had happened to a different person. It felt strange to realize he'd gone through it all without becoming bitter. But that choice, to rebuild without revenge or resentment, just to quietly step away, had shaped him into who he was now. That night, after their son went to his room, Megan asked Noah to come sit with her on the couch. No questions, just a gesture of support. He sat down, got comfortable, and finally said, "Today was weird." Megan just nodded, letting him go on. It was like seeing it all again from the outside. I still felt something. I don't know what. She answered gently, straight to the point, you really cared at one time. When we truly care, part of that never leaves. But it doesn't mean we haven't moved on. It just means we lived. Her words echoed in him with a force he couldn't quite describe, because that was exactly it. He'd lived, loved, been betrayed, started over. And now he was here, whole, with a woman who got him, even in silence. Late that night, while the world slept, Noah lay in bed, staring at the ceiling. Megan dozed beside him, breathing calmly. In that quiet moment, he realized that his peace didn't come from never having felt pain, it came from something bigger, the choice to remain on the right side of things, even when he had every excuse not to. Ashley was part of his past now. Not a ghost, but a memory with a face, a voice, tired eyes, living in a time that no longer belonged to him. And maybe that was the greatest victory, being able to look back without wanting to return, without needing every answer, and most importantly, without losing the ability to move forward with a light heart. Thank you for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you won't miss any updates. See you next time.